Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another video here on the SSA Philosophy channel, where we, of course, dive right on into the philosophy of characters from video games, TV shows, to movies, etc., etc. And of course, today, once again, we have another video, and today we're going to be going over the philosophy of the character known as Squidward Tentacles. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to waste any time. So, right now, we're going to get right up into this bad boy here. So, let's get started. And as always, we're going to start with the introduction of the character Squidward Tentacles. So, Squidward Tentacles basically is a resident, of course, of the wacky underwater city of Bikini Bottom. Really, Squidward is a character who really, of course, needs little introduction. Because I'm pretty sure that each and every single one of us, we already know exactly really who the character Squidward himself really is. And for those even, who haven't dived into the world of SpongeBob SquarePants, Squidward's perpetually, pretty much he is perpetually, pretty much his disgruntled expression and lanky physique are instantly, recognizable. But really beneath the grumpy exterior really lies a complex character, or should we say octopus, filled with, like, say, artistic aspirations, a deep disdain for his mundane life, and a hilarious inability to escape the chaos that surrounds him. So, of course, created by marine biologist and animator Stephen Hillenburg, rest in peace, Stephen Hillenburg. Squidward's first, so basically, the character of Squidward first appeared in the pilot episode of SpongeBob SquarePants in 1999. So really, despite his name containing squid, Squidward is actually an anthropomorphic octopus with, six tentacles that often flail about in exasperation. So really, he resides, like, say, in a sort of like, more, pretty much like a more like moe shaped house. Pretty much a permanent fixture between, like, the pineapple abode of his overly optimistic neighbor SpongeBob SquarePants, and of course the rock dwelling of Patrick Star, a simple-minded starfish who is SpongeBob's best friend. So Squidward's personality really is overall one thing that really truly, defines really Squidward's character, because really he is short-tempered, easily annoyed, and possesses a seemingly bottomless well of sarcasm. And really he finds the antics of SpongeBob and Patrick to be utterly insufferable. And of course, his days working as a cashier at the Krusty Krab fast food joint under the tyrannical rule of Mr. Krabs only fuel his cynicism. So Squidward, of course, dreams of a life filled with artistic acclaim, whether it's through his clarinet playing, his painting skills, or his dramatic talents. However, though, his artistic endeavors are often met with failure or indifference, adding another layer to his comedic frustration, so to speak. So really, despite his, constant state really of annoyance, Squidward isn't entirely, pretty much isn't entirely devoid of depth. Cause see, there are occasional glimpses of a more sensitive side, a love for the finer things in life and a yearning for recognition. And Squidward, he can even, like, be surprisingly, a lot of times he can be insightful, at times, because, like, there are times where, Squidward overall can, where, he can actually have some very insightful moments, pretty much in the series, of SpongeBob SquarePants. However, though, these moments are, usually overshadowed, by, like, say, his grumpy demeanor and knack for finding himself in disastrous situations, often caused by the very things that he despises. So really, Squidward's role, really in SpongeBob, pretty much goes beyond, like, say, simply, being, like, say, the comedic foil to the, energetic SpongeBob. But really, Squidward, what I believe he represents is that really he represents the drudgery of everyday life. The frustration of unfulfilled dreams and the annoyance of dealing with those that we find, incompatible. So, and yet there's really a certain, relatability, really to his character. Because honestly, I mean, who hasn't had days where, they wish, for a bit more peace and quiet, or, secretly harbored a hidden artistic desire. So Squidward tentacles, now Squidward, he may be, of course, grumpy, but really Squidward overall, I would most definitely say this 100%. Squidward is an iconic and enduring character. Because really his comedic timing is really it's impeccable. And his deadpan delivery of insults is pure genius. And really his artistic failures. Really they provide like say this endless entertainment that we get from the show SpongeBob SquarePants itself. Because really Squidward is a constant reminder that life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but even amidst the chaos, there is, humor, to be found, despite all of this. So really in this case, so with the brief introduction out of the way, let's go on ahead really to dive and really explore pretty much say the philosophy of Squidward. So this right here is what I like to call the Squidward School of Thought, a symphony of suffering in C minor. So of course, let us go on ahead and get into the philosophy of this character. So, of course, in this case, Squidward tentacles, a cephalopod of refined taste under the sea, really he offers a unique perspective on life. So, really, we're going to dive into the core tenets of Squidward's philosophy. So, really, the first, like, say, tenet that we want to really focus on in this case really is the cult of quietude. So really for Squidward, noise, especially like say the relentless cheer of Bikini Bottom, to him is the enemy, you know, and peace is a sacred melody, and silence the most beautiful note. Now, the thing is that, when it really comes down to like, tranquility, tranquility, like say as the highest ideal, Squidward views a life of tranquility as the ultimate goal, because he craves a world devoid of noise, of mess, and the general absurdity that defines his neighbors' lives. And really, when it comes to like say his disdain, for the mundane, like everyday routines and menial tasks, really they bore Squidward. Because really he aspires to a life filled with artistic pursuits, fine music, and intellectual stimulation, which his job as a cashier at the Krusty Krab sadly doesn't really provide that. And really, when it comes down, like, say, to the curse of proximity, Squidward's biggest torment really comes, like, say, from living next door to his neighbors, SpongeBob and Patrick, because really their constant laughter, their pretty much their goofy antics and uninvited intrusions shatter his dream of serenity. So really, Squidward, like really, so really, when it comes, like say, to the Code of Quietude, when it really comes to this first tenet, of his philosophy, and then now it's not really like say, one without its flaws, because really his obsession, with quietude, it can make him appear like say as selfish and aloof. However, though, what this tenet really does is that really it sheds light on the human desire for peace and the frustration that arises when our surroundings constantly disrupt our inner peace. And also, another tenet overall that we really want to cover and focus on of Squidward's character really is the banality of reality. So, really, for Squidward, life is a monotonous dirge, like pretty much a repetitive loop of Krabby Patties and clarinet practice. And meaning is simply an illusion, one that is best ignored. So really, when it comes to Squidward's job, as a cashier at the Krusty Krab, now pretty much, really his job at the Krusty Krab, pretty much it pretty much epitomizes the mundane, because really every day is really a repetitive cycle of serving, the greasy Krabby Patties to mindless customers, and really it's a far cry from the artistic recognition that he craves. So really, this, monotony, really it becomes like say a personal prison for Squidward, a constant reminder of his unfulfilled potential. And really, when it comes, like, say, down to like, like when it comes to like his neighbors, SpongeBob and Patrick, SpongeBob's, like relentless optimism and Patrick's cluelessness, really they grate a lot on Squidward's soul, because their childish antics, really they highlight the absurdity of Bikini Bottom life, because their laughter, which really in this case is a symbol of joy, for them, it really becomes a mocking reminder of the simplicity that Squidward finds distasteful. And really, Squidward, like he dabbles in clarinets, and painting and, various artistic pursuits. but really his attempts are met with failure or ridicule. And really, what this feels is that this feels his cynicism, because really he questions the point of striving for greatness in a world that doesn't appreciate it. So really, in this case, like this part of Squidward's philosophy, really it becomes really like a coping mechanism for him, because by embracing like the absurdity of his situation, he maintains a sense of detachment. So really, he becomes like say a sardonic observer, finding humor, albeit dark, in the nonsensical world that is around him. However, though, there are glimpses of a deeper yearning. So really, when it comes to like the glimpses, like say of a deeper yearning, because really occasionally Squidward like he experiences like say a moment of artistic inspiration or of a fleeting connection with beauty, and these moments, though fleeting as they may be, they highlight a desire for something more meaningful. Because he might attend a clarinet recital or get swept away by a beautiful sunset, only to be put. I mean, pretty much only to be pulled back into the mundane. And really, when it comes to Squidward, when it comes to like his philosophy, as really when it comes to his philosophy altogether, really it's a tragic comedy, because really he embodies, the frustration of like the unfulfilled artist, trapped in a world that doesn't really understand him. And his cynicism is really a defense mechanism, but it also reveals, like, say, a yearning for a life of greater purpose and beauty. And also another tenet we also want to cover in this is really the absurdity of ambition. So really, when it comes to striving for greatness, in a world of fry cooks and talking squirrels, is a recipe for disappointment. That's what. So pretty much for Squidward, embrace the mediocrity. For really, it brings, you pretty much, because it brings, unexpected solace. So really, this is pretty much how Squidward, how he once again, how he really feels. Like he feels overall that all these things is simply just that. It's a recipe for disappointment. So really, Squidward, like he really embodies, like say, the futility of chasing a version of success, one that is dictated by others. So really, his dream is to be a famous musician, playing his clarinet for an adoring audience. Yet he's perpetually stuck working as a cashier at the Krusty Krab, surrounded by the chaos of SpongeBob and Patrick. And really, every attempt at artistic expression, really it backfires spectacularly. Highlighting the vast gulf between his aspirations and reality. And really, Squidward's world, really it is I mean, really his world is inherently absurd because SpongeBob and Patrick, I mean, really they are walking embodiments of unchecked enthusiasm, oblivious to the frustration that they cause. Now, the thing is like like there's no like issue or problem like say like with having to be like always optimistic or enthusiastic. I'm not saying like I have an issue like, really anybody, would say to have a problem with people who are like happy, optimistic, and enthusiastic. But a lot of times though, it can go unchecked. And sometimes it can actually, a lot of times can be like, like it can actually cause like other people to be like, really frustrated at times, and really, when it comes to like his boss, Mr. Krabs, who is a penny pinching tyrant who values money above all else, you know. So really, in this context, Squidward's ambition, tragically to him, it feels misplaced. And really, like here's how Squidward, like how he experiences, pretty much how his experience reflect the absurdity of ambition. So here's how they pretty much reflect it. So really for Squidward, society really overall is like, it's like tyranny, pretty much the tyranny of the dream, because for Squidward, society often it pushes a singular definition of success, wealth, fame, and power. So really Squidward represents pretty much, represents the frustration of feeling obligated to pursue a dream that doesn't resonate with your true self. And also another part also is really the impossibility of control because really, despite his efforts, Squidward remains trapped in his dead end job. And this highlights like the powerlessness that we often feel a lot of times, when the external forces, dictate our lives. And also, when it comes to the devaluation of passion, because see, Squidward's artistic pursuits are constantly mocked or belittled. And really, I think what this reflects is that this reflects a world that prioritizes profit over passion, leaving individuals feeling like their true callings are irrelevant. So really, when it comes to Squidward, like this, like say philosophy of his, like this part, it isn't about abandoning, ambition altogether, but really it's about questioning the societal narratives that define it. So perhaps true success, lies not in material gain or external validation, but in finding purpose and fulfillment within the absurdity of existence. So really, Squidward, in his own grumpy way, reminds us that it's okay, like it's okay to laugh at the futility of it all. And maybe even like say find solace in playing your clarinet while poorly, of course, like say maybe in your underwear. Okay, that was definitely very weird way to end it off right there. Very, very weird indeed, but still. And also, so really another like important tenet to really cover in Squidward's philosophy really is, really is the curse of proximity. So when it really comes to the curse of proximity, because see for Squidward, those that are closest to you, of course, people like SpongeBob and Patrick, obviously, you know, are often the source of your greatest woes. So really, in this case, Squidward, I think, in this sense, what he pretty much, is pretty much teaching us in this case is pretty much, learning to really appreciate solitude. So So really in Squidward's mind, living next to like a fry cook, who hollers, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready at ear splitting decibels and a pink absorbent walking nightmare is enough to drive anyone to the edge. And really that's his life, people. I mean, that's his life. Because like this is Squidward tentacles that we're talking about. I mean, like this is Squidward tentacles at your service, or rather disservice, matter of fact. So some might say that he's a, curmudgeon, you know, but he prefers himself a misunderstood artist. So really his tentacles, they ache for the delicate notes of the clarinet, not the grease-stained clamor of the crusty crab, but here he is, trapped in purgatory. And really SpongeBob, someone who actually, is who Squidward views as a yellow menace. He sees the world through rose-colored glasses, oblivious, like say to the symphony of his discontent. And really his very existence is a violation of his personal space, a cacophony of cheer that shatters the tranquility that he craves. So really Patrick, and also Patrick, especially Patrick, to Squidward is the amoeba with with ambulatory ambitions. You know, it's really another unwelcome guest in the orchestra of Squidward's existence. Because really his vacant stare and pretty much his, gluttonous, like say, form are a constant reminder of the idiocy that surrounds him. So really in this case, they may call it friendship, but for Squidward, he calls it encroachment. So really their proximity, really it is, a curse to Squidward. A relentless tide of noise and nonsense that threatens to drown out the last vestiges of his own sanity. And one day, for Squidward, like one day he dreams of escaping this suffocating proximity, of really finding a place where silence reigns and his art can flourish. But for now, though, he is resigned to his fate, a lone clarinetist in a world obsessed with Krabby Patties. Such is the tragic curse of proximity. And also, another tenet we want to cover in this really is something overall I want to call the inevitability of inconvenience. Now, what does this pretty much mean? Also, what this really means, what this really means is that really, for Squidward, like the universe, really the universe, it conspires to disrupt your carefully constructed routine. You know, embrace the chaos, for resistance is futile. So really inconvenience, really it is the ever-present pebble in the shoe of existence, because it is the spilled Krabby Patty on your pristine white uniform, the unexpected traffic jam that delays your clarinet practice, the next door neighbor Patrick Starr practicing his air drumming at 3 a.m. Inconvenience is the relentless disruption of the meticulously planned, a constant reminder. It's also a constant reminder that perfection is really just an illusion. So really, when it comes to Squidward, when it comes to the futility of resistance, now one may naively attempt to defy the inconvenience. One may set 10 alarms, meticulously plan every route, and soundproof one's home. But such efforts are but futile. Futile attempts to silence the inevitable kazoo solo, and really the universe, in its infinite wisdom, or perhaps, lack thereof, has an uncanny ability to unearth the most exquisitely inconvenient moment to strike. So really, therefore, the only rational course of action, really, for Squidward, really is acceptance, and really, what he teaches us, really in this case, really is, yeah, pretty much what this part really teaches us, honestly, is that we must learn really to recognize the inconvenience, recognize it as not as a foe, but as well an incredibly annoying companion, because really, it's through the fires of inconvenience that our patience is forged and our resilience is tested. So perhaps, just perhaps, when the next symbol crashes, we might even maybe say develop a sardonic sense of humor about it all as well too. And also another tenet, also one to cover in this philosophy, is really the power of passive aggression. So really, in this case, Squidward, really, when it comes to say a withering stare, a sardonic remark, really these are all say the weapons of say of the misunderstood artist. One that is wielded with silent but potent effectiveness. And honestly, let's just face it, guys. Like the world is full of SpongeBob's and Patrick. I mean, now there's people out there probably watching this video right now. Probably a lot of you guys that are SpongeBob's and Patrick's yourself. You know, some that might be obnoxious, happy, oblivious to the finer things in life, like peace and quiet. But then, of course, there are you guys. Now I'm not gonna say overall that I'm a Squidward, but I know that there are people like that out there in the world that are like Squidwards, but really, in this case, I feel like in this case that when it comes to people out there that are the Squidwards of the world, you know, pretty much in this case, the Squidwards overall are like the misunderstood intellectuals. The ones that are constantly bombarded by the entities. Pretty much of those, that pretty much surround like a lot of them. Like pretty much surround a lot of us in our society. So really, when it comes say down to when it comes to basically having to be like a version of Squidward or being like Squidward altogether, really it comes down to say a couple of say principles when it comes to having to be, when it comes to say having to master say the the passive aggression, of the character of Squidward. So really when it comes to the first principle in this case is obviously the art of the sigh. Now the sigh it is a versatile, pretty much it is a versatile tool. A well timed, dramatically drawn out sigh. It pretty much can convey a multitude of emotions, such as disappointment, frustration, utter boredom, and really it requires no words, just a good lung capacity and a flair for the dramatic. And bonus points if you actually can combine it with an eye roll that would make a lesser invertebrate faint. Now, the second principle in this case is pretty much the power of selective hearing. Now, some things are simply better left unheard. So, in this case, if you run into a SpongeBob, when SpongeBob is about to regale you with his latest pineapple related invention, or a Patrick is explaining for the 100th time the intricacies of blowing a perfect bubble, perfect deafness is a lifesaver. Pretend you have a sudden car ache or that you simply can't hear them over the non existent sound of your own internal monologue. And of course, the third principle in this case will obviously be the masterful side eyed. Now, the side eye is a nonverbal masterpiece, a glance pretty much that says, I can't believe I'm even acknowledging you right now. Now, pretty much it's a social commentary in a blink. So, really, practice in the mirror. So practice in the mirror, perfect that disdainful look, and unleash it whenever necessary. Just be sure to maintain the plausible deniability if confronted, what? I wasn't looking at you. Delivered with the right amount of sarcasm should do the trick. And of course, the fourth principle in this case basically being the non committable grunt. You know, And so really in this case, conversation is overrated. Sometimes all that's needed is a grunt. A low, unenthusiastic rumble that acknowledges the existence of what was said without actually engaging with it. And really, it's a perfect way to shut down and aim, conversations and discourage, further interaction. And also, of course, the last principle, number 5, which overall is the art of disappearing. So really, in this case, to basically master yourself as being like another Squidward, being a Squidward intellectual, there's nothing quite like a well-timed retreat. So when the going gets tough, or rather noisy and irritating, well, disappear. Feign illness, take an extra long bathroom break, or perfect the art of strategically placed shrubbery. Now, the world may not really appreciate your genius, but at least you'll have your peace. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that overall is the conclusion of this video. But of course, overall, with all this really being said, so yeah, pretty much that last, tenet overall, that was pretty much like, say, like a little funny, like, say, part that I really just wanted to add in, really just kind of really wanted to dive on deep, for those who are like, Squidwards themselves in the world. But, overall, but yeah, but Squidward's philosophy, really it is not, for the faint of tentacle, but really it's one for the perpetually grumpy, the artistically frustrated, and those who find beauty in the minor key. So really it's a reminder, that happiness is fleeting, but a well placed eye roll, can last a lifetime. So remember this, as Squidward himself, might even mutter under his breath, if one cannot find solace in solitude, they are doomed. But really, in conclusion, though, ladies and gentlemen, Squidward Tentacles, the grumpy neighbor and cashier, from really from SpongeBob SquarePants, all in all, in all seriousness, really Squidward overall is a very complex character. One who really, I mean, pretty much one character who elicits, like, say, both amusement and sympathy. Now, he undeniably, serves, like, say, as the show's, like, comedic foil. His constant exasperation with SpongeBob and Patrick's antics, fuels hilarious situations. And also his pretentiousness and his pessimism. Pretty much they do provide a counterpoint, to the show's overall optimistic tone. Yet beneath the surface, it lies a deeper layer, honestly. So really, Squidward, a passionate artist, misunderstood and yearning for recognition. Now, his talents, though sometimes exaggerated, are undeniable because we do see glimpses of his artistic potential in his clarinet playing, his paintings, and even his elaborate topiary sculptures. However, though his dreams are constantly thwarted by the mundane reality of his job at the Krusty Krab and the obliviousness of those around him. So Squidward's bitterness, really it stems from this frustration because really, he feels trapped in a dead-end job, surrounded by those who don't appreciate him. And really, despite his outward disdain, there is a hint of longing for connection. Because he does occasionally, a lot of times, show moments of begrudging care for SpongeBob and Patrick and even Mr. Krabs. So really, ultimately, Squidward is a character, one that is caught between his artistic aspirations and the absurdity of his reality. But really, Squidward, I would say in this case, represents the struggle to find meaning and purpose in a world that often seems indifferent. While his grumpy exterior, while it does make him a comedic target, but really it's a shield, I would say. A shield, I would say overall, that protects, I believe, in my opinion, a vulnerable soul. So really, Squidward's relatable discontent is really what makes him such an endearing, and intriguing character. Because like there are people out in the world, even today, and always have been, people out there that have always been able to relate with a character, like Squidward, and there's still been people out there that relate with him on a like really on a whole, like, say, another deeper level, more than just like at face value when it comes to like working like a dead end job, or their life not necessarily going where they want it to go or what they want it to be, all that kind of stuff, But really, that's the thing, Squidward overall is really a character that a lot of people can relate to, and really him and his like portrayal and like say him being in SpongeBob all together, it really overall is what makes him a very like say legendary and of course, if I must say once again, an iconic character. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, that overall is the end of this video here today. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you do, of course, enjoy videos like this on my channel, of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more explorations into the minds of your favorite characters from video games, TV shows, and movies. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, also hit the notification bell to be notified and stay updated on my latest videos as well, too, that I'll have coming out later on this week. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end. So, with this being all said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go on ahead to once and always tell you this every time and every video I make to always, 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 always be smooth, always be steady, and always be aggressive. Peace.